What is a spiritual father? Well, it's someone, it could be a man or a woman, who's over you in the Lord and who cares for you. We've all got biological fathers, even if they're not alive anymore. We've all got a father in heaven. But each of us should ideally have someone who watches over us in the faith. You know, in Catholic churches or in Episcopalian churches, they have godfathers or godmothers. So it's that type of idea, except quite often a godfather or a godmother isn't that involved. What we're talking about is someone that loves you in the Lord, someone who cares for you, someone who wants to watch over your well-being spiritually, but also in other ways too. Someone that loves you enough to say something to you if you're doing something wrong and point it out. Now, what happens is that we're often a little bit scared of being accountable. We're often scared of having someone like that over us in our lives because there's a part of us that wants to be independent. There's also a part of us that doesn't completely trust other people. Most of us have grown up in a family where we had a father who did love us but was imperfect. Or if you didn't have a father, you've grown up in a home and you've had men in your life and they were imperfect. So we have this sense and this awareness that people that are over us are imperfect. And yes, they are. So we don't completely trust. But having a spiritual father in your life is actually really important. So we need to come to a place where we find someone that we can trust, and they might still make the odd mistake, it's true, but we can trust them to have an input into our life and over us. And it's also important to probably become a spiritual father or a spiritual mother to someone else as well. So growing in your journey and coming to the place where you care for someone else. Now, a spiritual father, ideally, should not be someone who controls you. They shouldn't be thinking to themselves, aha, now I've got these people in my life and I can tell them what to do. Sometimes you meet a pastor in a church who's a bit like that. They want to control everyone and they want it to be self-serving. So that's not really an ideal spiritual father. But at the same time, sometimes we have never really learned how to submit our lives to someone else. And so the minute someone tries to correct us, even in a good way, or try to teach us, sometimes we reject that, and because we're unteachable, we're unsubmissive, and we say, oh, they're just being controlling. They won't let me do what I want. And so the problem can sometimes not be them, but could be you, could be me. It could be our heart that doesn't want to listen to someone else. So sometimes it's actually good to surrender your life to someone, like say your pastor in your church, and say, I want to follow the Lord, and I give you the permission, your spiritual leader, to speak into my life. If you see something wrong in me, you have the freedom to correct. You have the freedom to bring it up, and then they know they can speak to you without the risk of offending you, hopefully. And what I've discovered, I have a spiritual father. This is also my actual father, John Alley. What I've discovered is I've given him the permission to speak into my life, and he does. But the risk of being offended is always there, even though he's got the permission. And what I have to do is say to myself, like I might preach a sermon in church and he might say, when you said this certain thing, you were wrong on this point, or you could have said it a better way. And even though I've given him permission, there's always that feeling inside of like, I don't want to have someone tell me that I'm wrong. But it's actually really important to allow someone to have that place in your life. Otherwise, you're a law unto yourself and you're your own boss. You've become your own kind of like mini God. You tell yourself what to do. And sometimes your spiritual father or your pastor might actually be wrong. And that's okay. The point isn't whether they're perfect all the time or not. The point is that you've humbled yourself. You've given place to someone to speak into you. And that's how you will grow. So what's a spiritual father? It's someone, it could be a man or a woman, it could be a spiritual mother, who you've given that place to and you trust them. They might still make mistakes, but through that process, you're able to learn and grow and hopefully come to the place where you will be a spiritual father or a spiritual mother to someone else.